Good afternoon, good evening, South Sudan, and welcome to another episode of Gender Talk 211. My name is Eva Lopa, and with me in the studio today is someone very amazing with a career path that is never expected. We've never heard of in South Sudan. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. Guest, you are most welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Eva. Good afternoon or good evening?
Good afternoon, good evening, all works.
All right. Good afternoon, good evening to all our listeners and all our viewers. My name is Salwa Suzy, and I am a certified relationship and sex coach.
Relationship and sex conversations is the topic of our conversation today. How are you, Salwa? How are you doing? Welcome to Advanced Youth Radio.
Thank you very much. I am happy to be here.
Your first time here.
Yes, and it's my first time here too.
I'm happy to have you here. Of course, I have many questions, but first let me get to know you and let the audience get to know you as well. So tell me a bit more about yourself and this career choice of a relationship and sex coach. What does this mean?
Now, of course, this is something that many people do not expect of, especially a South Sudanese girl, given our culture and, our upbringing as well. I think here, the most jobs that we are allowed to, take on are things like, oh, you should be a doctor, or you should be a nurse, or a teacher, at least. But with my kind of career path, it has raised a lot of questions, especially the audience. My family is quite okay with it, but everybody else is still a bit rigid, but slowly they're starting to come around it. Now, my reason really for doing this was given that I grew up in Uganda, and even when you grow up outside of South Sudan, in your household, it will always be South Sudan. So, and my relatives, of course, I was always connected to all our relatives and all of that. But looking around, I felt like a lot of people were going through suffering in relationships. It was more like misery. People get into relationships or into marriages to get miserable, which I never understood. And I don't think we came into this world to be miserable. I don't believe in that. I think we came into this world to be happy people and to fulfill our purpose here. So having seen that growing up, and of course, even when I came back to South Sudan, it was still the same situation. Whenever I looked around people, I felt there was still suffering and misery in relationships and in marriages. So I took it upon myself and thought, I'm going to go out and learn how to be in a healthy relationship where you're actually happy and not suffering. And when I do learn that, I want to come back and help someone learn that too, so that they can also be able to acquire happiness in marriage or in relationships.
Got you. So how did you do that? Because you're certified, from what I hear. This is a certified relationship and sex coach, ladies and gentlemen. So how did you obtain that certification? Where did you get it from?
So I acquired my certification from Allison University in the Republic of Ireland. And of course, given my kind of field, continuous education and continuous development is essential because relationships change depending on talked about in a way that is public. Even relationships, people are not used to talking about relationships in an open way. And I think that is also due to how talking to a professional or to someone that has the skill set helps you to actually get through some of those hurdles in relationships.
Absolutely. Very true. And since you started, do you have any clients right now?
Yes, I have clients that I've been coaching. Actually, some have already completed their coaching sessions, but I also have some who are still undergoing the coaching.
Okay. And what has been their feedback?
Well, actually, most of them have been really positive. Of course, at the beginning, things are quite difficult because when you go out and try to involve a third party in your relationship, there's always the fear of, can I trust them? But I always make it clear to my clients that when you come to me, I offer you a platform where trust is, first of all, very important. Because for you to come to me and open up about your relationship, something you consider very private and intimate, I have to be able to offer you that space where it's safe, a safe space where you can feel that, okay, I can open up to the depth of my problems and be able to tell her. So I create that safety space for my clients. Trust.
For them to basically talk about,
Yeah.
discuss any problems that they do have, and then finding a solution for them.
Sure.
So it's a form of therapy.
Well, therapy and coaching, but I call it coaching because with therapy, you only do a lot of talking. So therapy most of the time focuses on the problem. But when you bring in coaching, you're then now focusing on, okay, we know that this is the problem, but what is the solution? So coaching is more solution oriented than therapy. So
Oh.
that's why I felt coaching for me is more important or more needed, especially in my society, because yes, we know what the problems are, and of course, what can we do then? We require to have solutions to those problems.
Okay, so we're getting coached to have healthier relationships,
Yes.
better love lives. Let me say. Okay, let's use me as an example. Let's try that. Let's do session right now. Let's do 5 minute session.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just came in. What is the first thing that you say?
Oh, hello, Eva. You're welcome.
Thank you
How
very
may I
much.
help you today?
It's weird for me to be here, first of all.
Okay.
But I have some relationship problems.
Right. Do you mind telling me what is going on?
The problem is I don't have a relationship.
Oh, okay.
I can't find someone, to love. What do I do?
Now, first of all, do you want to get into a relationship?
I don't know. I see what you did there. That was good. That was good. Wow. You almost got me talking about myself. That was very good.
Right. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you. That tickled something over there. So, okay, you do have sessions for, let's say, single women as well.
Okay, so what I do is I deal with individuals and couples. And individuals, of course, could be singles or even people in relationships, but they decide to go out and seek on their own first. So individuals and individuals and couples is how I group it. Because if I say singles and couples, then it's as if I'm targeting a specific audience. But it's individuals and couples. And what I do is I offer education, training, but most importantly, guidance. I teach them to learn relating skills that
Okay.
help nurture healthy relationships. And I also offer a platform for self-discovery. Yeah.
Very important, by the way.
It is very important. I think people actually do not take it serious to get to know themselves first. I always tell people it is very important that you know who you are first as a person before you can host another person in your life.
Right, because you have to know what you want as
Exactly.
well before
Yeah.
you move on.
So self-discovery helps you to then get to know who are you as a person, what do you want, what do you seek for in a relationship, and if you do get into one, how do you want that relationship to move forward? How do you want to be treated in that relationship?
Right. So let's talk about relationships in the context of South Sudan. I don't know what you expected when you came back from Uganda, but relationship and sex, the dynamics here are very, very different, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned you provide guidance or education, basically.
Yeah.
And one of major problems that we have in this entire country is the sex part.
Yep, for sure.
Not necessarily even within relationships, but just sex in general,
yeah.
right? And it happens that every sexual couple, right,
Yeah.
or every sexual individuals, let me say, because you don't always have sex just because you're in love,
Yeah, for sure.
right, or you're with someone. But it seems to be majority of sexual relationships end up in producing a child, which becomes
Yeah.
a major problem. Is that something that you include when you're providing education and guidance for your clients?
Now, I think first of all, we as a country need to come to a place where we introduce sex education into our educational system.
Right.
We need to be able to educate children from a younger age to understand the values and beliefs around sex. And sex, actually, especially when it comes to younger people, we need to talk about things like what is sexual harassment, or what is the right way for someone to talk to you that isn't bullying or any other form of harassment. So all that is really important to incorporate into the system, the education system. And of course, we need to start teaching them from an age of about at least 8. Teach them the basics from 8, and as they go along, you then start introducing the more depth.
They learn more
Yes,
about
they
it.
learn more about it. But with situations like that, obviously, yes, in this country, I think we need to really educate people as well. Family planning.
Right.
So we need to really be able to educate people about the fact that when you get into a relationship, it doesn't mean that it must produce a child. Every relationship is not meant to produce a child,
Right.
because relationships are actually like a stage in your life where you're trying to get to know someone, and getting to know someone should not involve bringing children into the world, because the moment you bring in a third person into the world, remember, the two of you are still in your early stages. You
Right.
don't know each other very well yet. Now you have a child in the mix. It's like there's a lot going on. So it's always try to be protective of how you involve yourselves in your sexual activity, because always take into consideration that if I have to go into a relationship with someone, first of all, I must know that I don't want to expect a child this early.
Hmm.
And if I don't want to do that, then I have to do the right thing to not get me pregnant.
Right. Right.
And of course, there's so many things around. There's so many other ways that you can prevent yourself from doing that. And that should really also be for both. The man should be caring enough to say, okay, we're still in our early stages of the relationship, but we don't want a child. So what can we do? Let's find ways to protect ourselves.
Hmm. Okay.
It's two people. Relationships is always two people. So solutions should be two people.
Right, absolutely true. But in you saying that, doesn't that mean that many of your clients, or majority of people, let's say, that would knock on your door for your services or coaching, have many things to unlearn? Because that's actually what we know as a
Yeah.
country, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
almost like it's a fact that a relationship between two people should produce.
A child.
Right. Should produce a child. That's something that we just know. I don't know who told us, but it's just something that we know. Also, family planning hasn't been a thing,
For sure.
right? So you have adults, many adults, right, that have an understanding that isn't necessarily true. And they need to now unlearn it. So your job doesn't actually begins if you're to resolve something for a couple or so on. Then it starts with the couple
Identifying.
unlearning.
Yeah. Well, I think what I do with most of my clients is, first of all, we identify what the problem is, and then address the problems. And yes, most of my clients actually have children, so yeah. And of course, most of them were unplanned. Most children are unplanned. But yes, as a society, I think there's so many things that we need to unlearn, especially in the relationship and the sex environment. There's so many taboos, or so many societal norms that were implanted into us from a younger age, and we just grew up with them without even questioning whether or not these are good for us, or good for a relationship, or good for a marriage. So there's a lot that we need to unlearn. And of course, everybody's situation is always different. That's why people like me, when we come in, we help you then identify that, okay, this is where the area is, the problem is. So how do we deal with this? We then
Right.
move forward. Yeah.
Right. Also, just noticing between couples in general, not necessarily that every relationship has love involved in it, right? So how do you deal with clients that actually come to you, but the problem that they're saying they're having isn't necessarily the problem? Like, let's say they're saying we don't get along, but the truth is that you had a child, it was unplanned, and that became a
A problem.
problem in your relationship. Or we don't get along because of such and such and such, but actually there's no love between the two people. How do you address that?
So I think first of all, what most people lack in relationships is understanding.
Hmm.
We lack understanding, and I think the lack of understanding comes from the lack of communication. So, and these are the things that I teach. I teach people to learn healthier communication, like a healthy way to communicate. So, many people get into relationships, and I even talked about this in one of my videos. So many people get into relationships, but in actual sense, they don't communicate.
Mm.
It's like we're in a relationship, but all we do is, hi, how are you? I'm fine. You go away, we either meet and we have sex, and then we part ways and we go away. We meet again the next time, and that's it. But we never take time to actually sit down and talk about what is this relationship? Where is it headed? What do we want to do? And until you get to the depth of what is it you want to do as two people in a relationship, you're going to have so many other things come in and take away what you could have built.
Facts, because we've seen it all over that
for sure.
because people do not communicate.
Mhm.
Let's say, of course, attraction is very different from
Yeah, sure.
loving someone
Mhm,
or
mhm.
actually wanting to be with someone, right?
Sure.
And there's a
Mhm.
difference between love and lust at the
Mm,
end
mm,
of the
mm,
day. And it seems that many of us do not understand that part. And you find partners or people in a relationship 6 months down the line, and then one person is communicating, marriage is not in my plan,
Yeah.
or children is not in my plan, or things that are important to you aren't important for that person, and you find out that you've just wasted 6 months
Of
of
your
your
life.
life.
Mhm, mhm.
That's another issue. How do you now guide, how do you give a better understanding of what a relationship actually is or what it should be?
So a relationship is a betterment institution. That's what I call it. So a betterment institution is two people come together and they work to build a life together. They create a life together. But creating that life means we both have to put in the hard work to create the life we both want. Not the life I want or the life you want, but the life we both want. And the way to do that is only to communicate efficiently. What do we want? Where are we headed? What do we see? I mean, where do we see ourselves in the next 5 years? Can we set ourselves goals and work towards that? So communication, I feel like in most cases is underrated, but it's actually the foundation of every relationship. Now, yes, there are relationships that probably started actually in our day now, in the modern day now, most relationships start with lust.
Right.
And most people actually misinterpret it. So there's a difference between lust and love. You don't meet someone on the first sight and tell them you love them. That's a total lie. If anybody ever tells you that they loved you at the first time they saw you, they are lying.
I think many people in South Sudan
Fall
have
for
heard
that.
that from, on first sight. Yes, I have heard that quite
They-
a few times.
Yes, and people use such words to just lure you into believing something that actually isn't true. There is nothing like love at first sight. It is lust at first sight. And lust means I saw you and you looked so pretty that day and I was attracted to you. Lust is what you feed your eyes. But after feeding your eyes, what next? So love comes later. Love doesn't come on the first day, neither the second day. Love is built. When it comes to relationships, love is built. And building that love in your relationship takes the two of you putting in the effort. Communication.
Wow. So for the past 4 months, you've been in South Sudan and you have been a relationship and sex coach. Once you introduced yourself as a relationship and sex coach, what is the reception? What are people saying? Because I know you've done a few interviews, you've been online putting videos, creating content on your field. What is the reception of it, especially from South Sudanese?
I think at the beginning the reception was a bit, I would say, negative, because, for example, if I walked up to someone and said, "Oh, hi, my name is Salwa Suzy and I am a relationship and sex coach. The moment I say the word sex, their faces frown.
People get stuck in that moment.
They're like, what? Did you just say the S word? So yes, people at the beginning it was a bit negative, but with time, I think when people took the time to just listen in and get to understand what I'm doing, most of them are now starting to come around. Most of them are starting to come around. Of course, it's gonna take me a while to really get into people's minds properly, but this is still just the beginning, and I feel like in 4 months I've actually made pretty good progress.
Oh no, you definitely have. You definitely
I
have.
have.
I've seen a few comments online, and someone was saying maybe she should introduce herself as a relationship therapist. And I thought about it, and I thought in my head, no, we need someone that's actually bold enough to say no, relationship and sex coach or therapist,
Yeah.
because we need to understand that these are things that are important to talk about. We need to normalize talking about that specifically.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. We need to really be able to get into a place where we're a bit comfortable with these things, because these are things that affect us on a daily basis. Relationships are actually a huge part of us as people.
Right.
From the very day you come into this world, you already have a relationship with your mother, your father, your siblings. You're growing up in relationships. And of course, as you get older, you now start to get into the other side of relationships, which is now the romantic side of relationships. So I feel like it's very important that we need to be talking about such issues and talk about sex especially, for everybody to learn. Because there are even people who went up to university, but trust me, they do not know what to do in relationships or
Right.
what to do, in marriages. So it's very important for us to be talking about it.
Right, I hear you. Now I want to get a bit technical about the work that you actually do, because as much as we want to think that people in relationships have only communication problems or unplanned, pregnancy
Yeah.
problems, that's not all. That's not really
Yeah,
all.
for sure.
So we have many abusive relationships, let's say of physical nature, of emotional
Yeah.
nature. You get clients that you can clearly see that this is a toxic or an abusive relationship for one of the two.
Yeah.
Now, what becomes your response? How do you address that?
Now, of course, in South Sudan, so many people are in toxic or abusive relationship that we have all witnessed. And when I do speak to my clients, and for example, if people come in for the first time, they're quite scared to tell me that it's actually abusive. And I think there's a little bit of denial and also the fear to let someone else know that I am actually going through an abusive relationship.
Right.
And sometimes it's just that they have no idea whether it's abuse. Some people actually don't know whether it's abusive, that the relationship they're in is abusive. So it's now my job to help you recognize that this is toxic. But do you want to fix this? Do you both want to go through this? So we talk about it. And I always encourage people that if you want to do coaching, it's important that you go as two people, because with relationships, it is two people. So if I help you, how about the other party? So I need to be able to help you both so you can both move in the same direction.
Right.
But yes, abusive relationships is a big, big, big problem in South Sudan. And empowerment plays a big part. Especially with what I do now, the platform for self-discovery in depth is actually empowerment, and especially for women, because I feel that in this country, it's mostly women that go through, that take in the most abuse
Right.
than men. Yes, there are men who go through abusive relationships too.
Women are the
but
majority.
Women are majority. And what I do with people like that is, first of all, help you understand that it is not okay to be in a place that produces toxicity for you.
Right.
Because let's be honest, relationships play such a huge part in our mental health. Abusive relationships play a very, very big negative impact on our mental health and our physical health. So it is making people understand that the stress you're enduring in that relationship is gonna grow into depression, anxiety, and with time you're gonna get high blood pressure, you're gonna get stress related issues like stroke, and
Right.
so many other sicknesses. So it's first of all making this person understand that what you're going through has a long term effect, but you can change it. Self discovery also, with what I do with self discovery as well, is to help women understand that you have power, but how do you use that power? You have the power to make decisions, you have the power to make choices.
Right.
How are you using your power in your relationships? And I think most of us are using our power in the wrong way. I'm not saying that because you have power you should go out and start being violent in your relationship. No, no, no. We all have power, but we can use that power and generate healthy healthy lives out of the power that we have. But it's up to each and every one of us. You have to first of all make the decision that, okay, first of all, accept that I am in a toxic relationship. Secondly, make the decision that I want to fix it.
Right.
And then involve the other party. Do they want to fix it the same as you do? If they do, then we need to come together now and give out solutions that now help both of you to communicate better and to be able to like work together more effectively.
Assuming that the couple actually comes in together.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear it's abusive or
Mhm.
so on. How do you separate the two? Because a lot of the times, for you to give an empowerment conversation, you have to have the person by themselves. Because
Right.
usually
Mhm.
those in abusive relationships don't think right when their abuser is within the same room.
For
They're
sure.
very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So how do you separate the two at that point? And then how do you also, if they're saying they want to fix it, right? They want to fix it. They want to work it out with this
Right.
partner and
Right.
so on. How do you bring now the partner around? We have many entitled men in South Sudan. Also, culture has made it very okay
Yeah.
for women to be abused in relationships. Now you're talking to a wall. How do you bring the partner around to what you're doing is wrong? It shouldn't be. How does that work out?
I think education. There's so many things we do unknowingly. There are people who actually abuse others, but they don't know that they're abusing them. There are people I've met who are in relationships, and they they inflict pain on their other partner, but when you ask them why they do it, they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't mean to," or maybe I didn't think that was going to be an abusive thing to do to them. So I think it is first of all making people understand that some things are abusive and some things are not.
Right.
And once you make that clear to them that this is wrong and this is right, it is them understanding that, okay, this actually can cause pain, but this actually can cause something else. So making them understand that there is a difference between pain and trying to do the right thing to take away all the other stuff. So with people like that, when abusive people come in, like couples come in, I first of all talk to them both. And after talking to them both, I can then tell them that we have to make sure that we have sessions for each one of you independently. So the first session is for you guys together. And then we first of all figure out what the problem is. After we figure it out, then I'll be like, okay, I can have maybe the lady come in and see me on such and such a day, and then I'll have the guy come in and see me on such and such a day. Because when they're separated, it helps each and every one of them to actually open up a bit more. And once you work with them individually for like 2 sessions, then you can bring them back together. And after you bring them back together, it helps to actually now it helps them to finally like
Face each other.
face each other and be able to say, okay, maybe what I was doing wasn't right, and now I've understood that this is the right thing to do.
Okay. It sounds very easy when you speak on it, but um, I'll just give you a heads up that you
Mm-hmm.
have your work cut out
I do.
for you in
I
this
do.
country. And I definitely do hope that more people, go in for sessions and so on,
Mm-hmm.
because those are conversations that need to be had, especially with people that are in relationships that are abusive, that are
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
toxic, that maybe need to self discover
Yeah.
and understand that this is not where I need to be, this is not where I want to be, and I need to find my way out of this.
Yeah, and especially our South Sudanese women, by the way, I think we grew up being told that if you're in a relationship, it's okay for you to accept pain.
Right.
So most of us grew up thinking if you're in a relationship with a guy who does not abuse you, he's actually not real. Have
Mm.
you been in situations where, like, one of your friends would tell you, my guy is so good, he really treats me well, he never beats me or never insults me or emotionally abuse me? And you people will be like, what? Are you serious?
He
That's
doesn't
not
love
true.
you.
No, he doesn't exist.
Oh.
So people actually think that for you to be in a relationship that you feel is a loving relationship, it should involve abuse. But abuse is not a part of a relationship. Relationships are supposed to be a place where you create happiness, not create pain.
Right. I think in one of the conversations that I had on the show itself, we talked about um, how in our minds, fighting in relationships
Mm-hmm.
seems to be a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're not in a relationship if you're not regularly fighting, or someone is yelling at you,
Yeah,
or you're mad at each other
for sure.
on the constant. And I don't know who taught us that. I don't know who told us that.
Well, these are some of the things that we also need to unlearn as a society. Is those are the kinds of negatives that we have put into ourselves. Sorry, we grew up being told that it is okay for you to be in a relationship where you're fighting, because they believe that fighting actually nurtures healthy relationships, but it doesn't. Yes, conflict is inevitable in relationships. I'm not saying that you should have relationships where you don't fight. Issues or conflict in relationships will arise.
Right.
That is something you cannot avoid. But how do you fix them when they do arise?
Right.
Conflict resolution is what I also train people to learn.
Conflict resolution.
Yes, so I do communication skills, conflict resolution skills.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm in for it. Okay, so in speaking also about abusive relationships, right? We
Yeah.
have a major issue of, let's say, people are in a relationship, and then you have, I guess this is more of the sex part.
Mm-hmm.
You have partners that, on many occasions, sex of forceful nature arises,
Right.
right? Girlfriend and boyfriend, even married people, because there are things that we don't realize exist, which is things like marital rape,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm not sure what the term is exactly when you're in a relationship with someone and then they have sex with you, not necessarily with your consent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that happens multiple times. Let's say your clients come in and this is something that you're noticing
Yeah.
is happening in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How do you now address that?
I think with such issues, first of all, I always talk to my clients and try to tell them that when you're in a relationship with someone, building respect is something that is very important. But then again, how do you build respect? When you talk, you build respect. Communication nurtures respect. So when you communicate and you tell people how you're supposed to be treated, but then how are you supposed to be treated? That starts with, first of all, knowing who you are, which is the self-discovery part of it. Who are you? How do you want to be treated? And then after learning all that, you can then be able to help the other party treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Communication. So when such issues arise, I think I always take it back to, do you communicate more oftenly about your sexual life in the relationship? And if you do, what are the things you're not doing right? So we try to pinpoint the issue there.
Mm.
And once we do that, Then we do, so we have, for instance, couples where the other person probably goes out, comes back drunk,
Right.
and he wants to force himself on the wife without her consent. I think at that moment, knowing that he's intoxicated, the best thing to do is to stay away,
Hmm.
avoid it. Now, I know they will say, okay, well, where will I go then?
Right.
Where will I go at that time? But there's always what we call talk to this person, pull them down and tell them, baby, no, not today. First of all, you're intoxicated. Let's get you sorted first, and then we can talk about the rest later.
I don't think it happens like that.
But
I don't
that's
think a conversation is an option at that point. You get.
but it boils down to what kind of relationship do you actually have?
Mm.
What kind of relationship do you have? The foundation of your relationship, what is it? Is your relationship based on good communication? Is it based on respect? Is it based on the fact that we have to work together? If we have issues, how do we solve these issues together? So foundations of many relationships actually aren't good, and that's why so many other issues arise along the way. But I always tell people, go back to the foundation. Fix the foundation first. You can't build a house on a broken foundation. It will never stand.
Okay. Let me move on to something else. Like before we came on the show, when I just knew that you were coming on, I was thinking a lot about how you would address things, or if I was to be a relationship and sex coach, I was imagining the type of problems that people are having, which are just problems, issues within the context of South Sudan, right? And I thought a lot about single mothers and divorced women. You see, culture plays a huge part in alienating single mothers and divorced women, where they're not provided with much options for them to have healthy and happy relationships afterwards in their lives, right? So do you provide also guidance for, let's say, single mothers and divorced women as well?
I have not yet started offering services for divorced women, but I have dealt with single mothers where we probably were in a relationship and a child came in and probably the guy had to leave, or, we have a lot of that going on here. But in such situations, I think I have two clients actually that I work with who are kind of similar and single moms. But they have tried getting into relationships, but they have issues. So it's like the relationship is not moving in the right direction. And there's always the family side of the partner who they keep saying, oh, but how can you go for a woman who's already had a child from a previous relationship?
Right.
Can't you just go get a girl who is young and fresh? That's what they say. How can't you just go get a girl who can give you a child? And like the first child should be yours and not from another relationship. So yes, culture does play a big part in that, and I think sometimes it's also family does play such a huge part in the decisions people take, especially when it comes to relationships. Now, with such situations, what I do tell people is, first of all, you need to be able to know what is the state of your relationship. Talk to your partner. Is he okay with taking you and your child? Is he okay with it? If he is okay with it, then it's now up to the two of you to go back to your families, to their family, and try to buy them into the idea that actually having a child from a previous relationship isn't a bad thing.
It's okay.
It is okay. It is just that I made probably bad decisions, I made bad choices, and a child came along. But the child has nothing to do with me moving on with your son. And it's not going to hinder me from having more children if I want to. But it's just making people understand. Sometimes we actually make decisions without understanding why we're taking up those decisions. And yes, family members. So go back to these people and talk to them.
Right.
but get them to buy the idea that it is not actually a bad thing.
Can you believe that we still have to do that?
We still have to do
We
that in
have
this
to,
country.
yes, in
We
our
do.
society,
We
we
do.
have to get the family to buy into the idea
Mhm.
that, you know, a single mother or a divorced woman,
Yeah.
you know, is not a bad thing. It's not
No.
a bad thing
Yeah.
at all.
Mhm.
Do you provide the advice, guidance for society? Because it seems like they're the ones who need it.
Yes, through my videos, I do that a lot. When
You do?
Yes, when so I do videos where I pick up a specific topic and talk about that. And in most cases, I talk to the general public, which is we grew up in a society that is this and this and that, and this is what the society has put into us.
Mm,
But in
mm.
actual sense, it is not supposed to be like that. This is the right way we should be moving forward. For example, I did a video a few days ago where I was explaining the true meaning of love. How many times do we go around the streets telling people we love them, but yet we don't actually mean it?
Right. No, absolutely.
How many
right.
guys are out there telling girls like every other day that they love them, but they actually don't mean it?
A lot.
So when I do my videos, I try to speak of that specific topic, but also trying to let each and every one that's watching know and learn something from it. We need to unlearn a lot of things in this country, and until we start talking about them,
Right.
we will not know.
Right. I think you should also do more videos on just empowerment videos for single mothers and
Mhm.
divorced women, because
Yeah.
a lot of the times they also hold back from being in relationships because they don't think that they deserve happiness
Yeah,
or
sure.
they deserve a second chance at love and so on, and they isolate and the child becomes their entire life. And then you find a person, you know, not actually getting in any form of relationship in their life ever again, which is a terrible thing, because regardless of what your status is, whether you're, you know, divorced, you're a single mother,
Yeah.
like, you deserve love and you deserve real love, not society, not culture. Nobody should tell you
Yeah,
otherwise. And we need to provide women with such empowerment. We need to speak to these women directly
Yeah.
because they definitely need it.
I'm actually organizing an event that's coming up. I still haven't yet decided on the dates, but I'll announce it as soon as it's ready. And what I'm hoping to really do is talk to people, educate people on relationships and marriages and how they can impact your lives
Right.
and the lives of everybody around you. And of course, I'll talk about healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships as well. So there's a lot to learn, and I think it's still new, but we have a long way to go.
Needed,
We have a long
very,
way to go.
very needed. I would
Yeah.
love if you can come on the show every now and then as well
Yeah.
and just do a little small segment
Mhm.
providing, you know, advice or guidance
Right.
for whatever it is whoever it is you're speaking to that day or at that moment. I would love
Right.
for you to come and speak more to people, because we can, especially women.
Yeah.
Right. I love women, my sisters out there. I know you're going through it and you need it.
Mhm.
So I would love for us to regularly, you know, check in on women within their relationships and
Yeah.
making sure that they understand that you are valuable, you deserve love, you deserve all the happiness in the world. So
For sure.
let me know about the date on
will.
I will be there. We'll invite
I will.
more people. Before
Yeah.
I close up, another form of relationship that is not arising, it's been
Yeah.
existing for a while
Right.
in the world, South Sudan as well, is digital relationships. You have online relationships, right? You
Yes.
you start texting someone, DM,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
people slide in your
Slide in your
DMs,
DMs.
right? Slide in your DMs. Don't get shy out there. You know it's happened to you. Don't lie to me. Okay, so you have people that slide in your DMs and you end up falling in love with someone, or, you know, over the phone or video chat. However it is, it's just a digital or online relationship.
Yeah.
Do you provide do you provide sessions for such people as well?
I haven't had people that have come to me whose relationships probably started online yet, but yes, I have seen that kind of those kinds of relationships a lot. What I do want to say is that when it comes to relationships, yes, it's fine. You can meet people online. It's fine. You can build relationships with people online. But I think it is always important that you actually get to spend time with these people, because online means I have a specific time to speak to you. Now, given that specific time, I am going to prepare myself so that by the time I speak to you, I am in the right mood to speak to you. But when you spend time with people face to face,
They can catch you in any mood at
they
any
will
time.
catch you in any mood and your true colors will unfold.
Right.
And relationships are all about learning about each other. And you cannot learn about people when they're like thousands of miles away from you. You need to be able to, first of all, have time, spend time with them, get to know each other. There's so many of us actually get into relationships, and the first maybe few months of our relationships is more pretentious.
Right.
We pretend a lot. The first few months, oh my goodness,
The
I
first
will
3 months
pretend,
of the perfect partner.
I will pretend to be the perfect partner.
Right.
But give me a few more months after that. So yes,
True.
you can create relationships online, but I always advise people to take time and to take the initiative and spend time together. Get to know each other face to face. Get to know what makes you angry. What is it that I do that will actually tick you off? I need to know those things about you. I don't want to know them later on after I have married you. No, I want to be able to know them now so that I know whether or not I can deal with you. And if not, can you find a way, common ground, where we can all compromise? So that's why spending time with each other is very important. You need to build that.
Do you think people shouldn't take online relationships seriously?
It depends. Some people come online and all they do is probably, I think most online relationships actually are excitement more than love. It is mostly excitement because you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I met this guy or I met this girl. But you now need to come back to reality. So most online relationships are not real,
They're an
100%
escape.
real. Yes. And of course, you cannot trust that they will last. You can't. So that's why, again, coming together to spend the time together is very important, because that then helps you know, can this actually go any further? How long can this keep going?
That's true, girl. I watch Catfish all of the time, and it is
Catfish,
not
yes.
pretty. Let me tell you that. Okay, online
Yeah.
relationships are
Yes.
trouble,
And
but
people actually can pretend to be anything they want to be online.
true, because
Yeah.
they actually can
Mm-hmm.
decide what time they're speaking
Yeah.
to you,
Mhm.
or what they look like
Yeah.
when they're speaking to you, how
sure.
they act when they're speaking to you.
Yeah.
It's impossible for you to actually have a whole idea
Of who
of
they are.
who the person
Mhm.
is. Okay, those of us that are online and listening in, keep your online relationship on a deck, okay, until you meet that person, because
Yeah.
Salwa is dropping some truth bombs over here, even for me. I need to go check my DM and figure out what I'm putting on deck, okay? Yes, I'm in your boat too.
Okay.
But I'm glad you said that, because my next point or topic that I wanted to ask you on is addressing like online relationships that end up with people having video intercourse.
Mhm.
I don't want to say the famous words. I do not want to say that. So that's the best I came up with. You'll take me as I am today. So yes, video intercourse, right?
Yeah.
And the issue with that is that now, out of things like that, a rising digital form of gender-based violence, is now on the surface, which is revenge porn. You have that happening every other week. We
Yeah.
hear of some video that is leaked or
Yeah.
something that is put out of someone else, and it's revenge porn.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think first of all, I don't believe in people doing what did you call it? Online what? Online sex?
Video intercourse. I
Video
don't even know if that
intercourse.
exists, by the way.
I don't think that, especially for people who start relationships online.
Yes.
I've had scenarios where girls have reached out to me and they're like, my boyfriend is pestering me about sending him my nude pictures.
Mm.
What should I do about this? The first question I ask them is, how do you feel about it? Because if you don't feel it is all right for you to do, then that is going against your values as a human being.
Right.
So it is always down to you. How do you feel about doing it? Now, with things like sex tapes and all of that, I really do not agree with stuff like that, because you don't know people. People can change
In a
anytime.
second.
I can love you today and wake up tomorrow morning and not feel the same way.
Right.
And that's why I keep telling people, don't marry people for just love, but marry people for more.
Right.
Because love is something that changes. Love is a feeling. Today I can feel happy and I'll tell you I love you. But tomorrow when you find me angry, I'm not going to be able to love you tomorrow.
Wow.
Do you get what I mean? So having stuff like that and having tapes like that all over, or sending your nudes and stuff like that to people, you are at their mercy. Once you do that, you are at their mercy. The moment you do something to take them off, they're going to tarnish you.
Right. Right.
And we have seen how many people have been tarnished with such.
Absolutely. I
So-
agree. I mean, the advice that I usually give is not certified, but it's advice. Okay. It's do not send
No.
anything that compromises you. Do not
Yeah.
do that. But I also do understand that when we fall in love, we fall stupid in love, and we
Mhm.
do things that we wouldn't do on a normal. And that's where such videos come from, right? Because you love the person and you trust them, and you end up sending them something, and they end up putting it for the world to see,
see,
really. So do not send things that compromise you. Please think about it twice. If you have to consult someone, do that. I'd rather you do that and expose yourself to a friend
Yeah.
than to have someone expose you to the maximum. But it's not all on you, right? It's very little on you. The people who are actually putting out videos like that of other people, stop doing that. Stop being a terrible human being, right? Revenge porn is a criminal act. Stop doing that. Okay? Stop doing that to people that you supposedly love, people that you supposedly trust, and they are supposed to love you and trust you as well. Stop doing that, please, to people. That is not the right thing to do. So you think about it as well and talk to someone about it. If you're angry, talk to your partner.
Yeah.
If, let's have a bit of communication and do not harm someone's life like that, because such things can be very detrimental.
Oh,
And let me
yeah.
just remind you that suicide, depression is not far away from the South Sudan bloc.
No,
It's
not.
happening. It's happening all over the country. So please have a heart and be a decent human being and stop doing that. Thank you so much for coming in today. I have been excited about this show ever since I found out that you were coming in, and I can't wait to have more conversations and actually hear about what you're doing and how much you're impacting our society. Do you have any last words for South Sudan?
Yes, I do have last words. My fellow South Sudanese people out there, I think we do go through a lot of relationship and marriage issues. And I just want to say to you that it is very important for you to seek assistance when you feel something isn't right. Seeking help is very important. It helps you to actually fix some issues that are beyond you. So seek help when needed.
Thank you so much, Salwa, again for coming in, and I can't wait to have you,
Thank you.
over more and more. I'm giving you another 6 months,
Oh, thank you.
to be around, and then I'm sure the conversation is going to be
Hotter.
different, right? So I can't wait
Yeah.
for that to happen, but congratulations on introducing
you.
us to this new thing that is Talk of Town, and hopefully everyone will continue talking about it because
Yeah.
we need it to happen. So thank you so much for coming in, and thank you everyone online, abroad, and on air for tuning in and listening into our show. This is Gender Talk 211. My name is Eva Lopa, and I will see you next Thursday, same time, same place again. You have a good night and drive safe.